In today's video, we are going to determine once and for all who is the best Batman. Alright, that joke sucked. But more seriously, going all the way back to 1989, we're going to look at which actors in live action have portrayed the Batman as well as Bruce Wayne most accurately. If that sounds good to you, give the video a like and consider subscribing for more Batman and just movie-related content. Before we begin ranking, I should clarify two things. One, we are only looking at actors that have played Bruce Wayne / Batman in live action film. And two, we're keeping it modern. Relatively. So we won't be including any pre-80s Batman, including Adam West or that guy that played him in the 40s, I think. All right, let's get started. Coming in last place, and this one is probably the easiest one to pick. We all know it, George Clooney.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
I should probably clarify what the criteria are in these picks. I'll explain it like this. Batman is really three people in one. You have the Batman, which is kind of Bruce Wayne unchained. It's who he is when he doesn't have to hide. He's full of aggression and he strikes fear into the hearts of the villains of Gotham. Truly the epitome of intimidation. Then there's the public face of Bruce Wayne. This is actually the most significant mask that Batman wears. It's what he wants people to see when they look at him. Just a billionaire playboy who's inconsiderate and selfish and runs amok throughout town spending his mommy and daddy's money. Then there's the true Bruce Wayne, who he is in his most private of moments. It's this supremely damaged child that grew up and never really found a healthy way to manage his pain. The Bruce that really only Alfred knows, and without a doubt, the most complicated Bruce to portray as an actor. With all that in mind, George Clooney missed all three aspects. I won't say it was entirely his fault. His movie Batman and Robin was horrendously written and directed, so I think he could have done better in a better film. But we're not grading on what could have been. We can only reflect on what was. Fortunately, old George is very well aware of his sins and has apologized time and time again for the movie.
I always apologize for Batman. Let me just say that I actually thought I destroyed the franchise until they brought it back. You know, somebody else brought it back years later and changed it.
Next up, coming in 5th place is Val Kilmer. Kilmer, like Clooney, had one shot at the Batman, and although he was nowhere near as offensive in the role, he didn't do much to separate himself from the pack. He just felt like a dead fish, not making any real effort to stand out one way or another. Again, he was in a less than stellar movie, so that may have something to do with it. But in that movie, he did very little to come across as the character we all know and love. That being said, I do feel like Val Kilmer was a believable Bruce Wayne, if only he played more than just the one note. Okay, this is where it starts to get tricky. Honestly, the top 4 are all great in their own ways. But again, I have to stick to the criteria I laid out as well as what we actually got to see them do in their time in the role. All that being said, 4th place goes to Batfleck, Ben Affleck. I actually love the idea of Ben Affleck as Batman. He is by far the most physically intimidating Batman we've seen so far on film. He also actually is super rich and a playboy with a kind of dark history, so it totally fits. Unfortunately for Affleck, he just didn't have enough time, in my opinion, to build out and explore the character. Of course, we know he was supposed to direct and star in his own The Batman film, which ultimately fell through. If he had that opportunity, I have no doubt that he would have ended up much higher on the list. But he didn't. Honestly, I feel like it's one of the biggest misses in Hollywood. You have Nathan Fillion not being able to play Nathan Drake in Uncharted, and Ben Affleck not getting enough of an opportunity to play Bruce Wayne and Batman. All right, we're breaking into the top 3, and as we do, I have to give it up to the OG, the guy that set it all off. I'm talking Michael Keaton. I feel like every time a new Batman is cast, the internet goes crazy, yelling about how they couldn't possibly play Batman. Well, in the late 80s, we didn't have the internet. So instead, disgruntled fans wrote about 50,000 letters to Warner Brothers just to complain about them casting the then comedic actor Michael Keaton as Batman. After the movie came out, though, there was much less left to complain about. I feel like we've learned since then that comedic actors and comedians can be plenty dark and brooding, and Keaton was really one of the first to make that known. That being said, Keaton really did only exhibit maybe 2 of the 3 Batman personas I mentioned before, much like most everybody else on this list. Despite his relatively smaller stature though, and his average build, he was truly intimidating and set us off in a great way with the potential for darker and more adult options in superhero movies. All right, before we get into our top 2, if you are enjoying this video, please click that little like button down there. I'd really appreciate it. It helps out the channel a lot. Also, consider joining me on my climb to 200 subscribers. I would love to have you. All right, time to get controversial. Coming in at number 2, the second greatest Batman we've seen to date, in my opinion, don't flame me, is Robert Pattinson. Now, here's the thing with Pattinson. Like Clooney and Kilmer, we've only got to see him in 1 film so far. Although it does seem that we are set for at least a trilogy with him, so we're bound to see more. That said, in this one movie, he knocked it out of the freaking park. We're getting a relatively young Bruce Wayne in the most recent The Batman movie, a full review of which you can find on my channel. So we haven't yet seen all 3 versions of Batman, but Pattinson has done a killer job setting us up with the foundation of Batman's personality. Not to give you a full review of the movie in this video, but he plays this dark, twisted, hopeless recluse that is an early Batman so well. I don't think anyone has hit the notes quite like the way he has. Maybe the closest to it being Michael Keaton. And then there was one. If you didn't already figure it out via the process of elimination, our winner is Kevin Conroy, because the rules don't matter. I kid. Although he is the one true Batman, the best actor to ever play a live-action Batman in film is Christian Bale. This one was honestly the easiest one for me to pick. Well, maybe second easiest, next to George Clooney being absolutely dead last. I feel like I knew as soon as I saw him in American Psycho that Christian Bale would be a tremendous Batman. Although he got a bit out there in his 3rd movie, no one else has pulled off what he did, playing truly all 3 sides to the Batman. He struck fear into the hearts of villains as Batman, made everyone think he was a giant tool as the public face of Bruce Wayne, and made us believe in his pain, in his intimate moments with Alfred, or in his time away from Gotham. He truly is, in my opinion, the best we've seen today. But, of course, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know your ranking and the reasons behind them in the comments below. I've also got a full playlist of every single Batman movie reviewed right over here, so if you want to check those out, click right on into it. And that's going to be it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Be good.